I've always been a big lover of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is, as you know, this big, massive, cleansing, and I think is at the core of many issues in relationship to toxicity in the body. And I had at that point done a lot of stage speaking on the age reversal of organs. So how do you keep your organs young? It's like, and I'm sure you get it as well. People say to me many times, you don't look your age, you don't look your age, you don't look your age. It's because I have kept the age of my cells different than the age of my birth certificate. Mm-hmm. That's fine, right? I mean, it really can vary. And I knew that could happen to the brain as well, being this organ that none of us really talk about. I'm kind of like the person that likes to put things on the table that people don't necessarily talk about out loud. They talk about them to themselves on the inside. Things like, I can't find my glasses over and over and over again, or I'm standing in the kitchen and I don't know why, or those conversations that you don't sit down and have with your girlfriends at lunch.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel, and also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health, and I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show.
Before we start today's video, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Empowering Family Health Podcast. I am so excited again. I'm always excited. I say this at the beginning of every show because I am excited every time I have a new guest on the Empowering Family Health. And as always, this show is all about empowering you to take back control of your health and well-being. And for parents, mothers, fathers, it is a very tricky job, and it's something we underestimate ourselves. We're just amazing at what we do, and we give ourselves such a hard time about it. We've so many hats that we're juggling, as parents, and even if you're an entrepreneur like me, and even on this show here, I got caught in traffic getting back on time for this recording. So Debs, I apologize again. So Debs Drummond is with us today. Let me read out Deb's bio. This is a really, really impressive bio. We're going to be talking all about brain health today. Deborah Drummond was born and resides in Vancouver, in Canada, and she has been in the health and wellness field for over 30 years and was a pioneer in bringing the idea of holistic natural medicine to the marketplace. She has formulated hundreds of natural products that have been taken to market, and she owns a private health practice and has personally worked on over 30,000 clients. Oh my goodness. And in the beginning of her career, she was used to be calling a hippie and now she's a well-known professional hippie that has made incredible strides in bringing wellness to the world. She's very passionate and knowledgeable about the study of age reversal and cellular health, and fell in love with the study of natural wellness in her 20s. She specifically fell in love with the brain almost 20 years ago and has dedicated years to understanding how to help others look better, feel better, and live better. Deborah is always ready to share about how to turn back the clock on your brain and prevent the aging progression. Oh my goodness. Deborah has been an entrepreneur since her 20s and is well known in the circle of women in business, and she has been a keynote speaker and recognized throughout North America and internationally for her accolades. And Deborah has spoken on stage to an audience of 20,000 and still loves to talk to an audience of 5. So as long as she's helping, she's happy to be there. She dedicates an incredible amount of time to speaking, teaching, and mentoring women, and has been listed in Success magazine over 40 times. She has been nominated and awarded many top awards and is well known in the TV, radio, and media. So Debs, what a long intro. You're very welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. It's interesting, right? You have the same thing where you sit there and you listen. And I think, interesting when we hear our own bio, right? When we hear our introduction, sometimes, and I'm included, full transparency, I'm a transparency speaker, probably more than anything. is you get a little shy, you get a little like, ooh, I don't know, don't say so much, all that good stuff. Sorry, we had a little technically, I think you could still hear me. I think here I am at this stage in my career, and I'm like, instead of feeling shy or coming on the show and going, oh my goodness, I think it's a place of ownership where you have to own that process, like what it took to get to where you are. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it is a pleasure to be here. As you know, you live in, I mean, I love my country. God bless Canada, but I'll tell you, Ireland's right there. It's my favorite place to go.
So many people say that about Ireland. Yeah, absolutely. But before we dive in, Debs, thank you for saying that, because, it's so great that you said that, because, as we're progressing through our career, for entrepreneurs or even parents, we undermine, and undervalue who we are. And, even when we're successful, there are people out there that are afraid of being successful. And, to be on the same, there's no hierarchy, we're all human beings at the end of the day. And I think this is what's missing in so many people's lives when it comes to comparisons, when we compare ourselves to other people. And this is part of our well-being, to honor and own who we are, and to be acceptable and have that worthiness about ourselves. So thank you for saying that, Debs. That was really significant. So Debs, we're going to talk today about brain health. So tell us how you got into this whole journey of brain health, because it is a very important topic in relation to health and wellness.
Absolutely. And I mean, I will say, and excuse my voice, because we just had this summit on Friday, and I'm in a very, very, very big project with a lot of incredible women and people that support women. So my voice is a little raspy. But, I think my venture in to health and wellness in general was pretty funky. I came from the music industry, and that's a different kind of health and wellness. I mean, I think the only thing healthy there is that you get to listen to music and you get to dance and you get to smile, and we all know what music can do for you. But it wasn't necessarily, I would say, the most healthiest environment. There's a lot that comes on with the music scene. And so when I diverted from the music scene into health and wellness, it was really through a journey of personal development, right? Like I kind of had what I call my spiritual awakening. It was just a very clear, obvious sign. And I literally called the club owner the next day, and I was like, I'm not coming back. And they're like, oh, do you have the flu or something? And I was like, no, I'm just not coming back. They're like, what are you going to do? Because it was a very financially sustaining sector in the 80s. Let me tell you, our country was booming. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I really didn't know. Like, I was just this blank slate. And through a serendipitous experience of deciding to go and get a degree in women's studies and religious studies and go help women in third world countries, I got pregnant with my daughter, found a flyer at a muffin shop that changed my life and propelled me into health and wellness. In my second class of learning massage at, I don't know, 7 months pregnant or something, I got tingles, and I said, I will be doing this the rest of my life. Now, I do massage and treatment. I call them God jobs. If someone finds my website or they hear this and they knock on my door, it's a gift to be able to give treatment, but it's not all of what I do, as you know. So my venture into health and wellness was pretty interesting. It was a full 360-degree turn in my career and in my life. And discovering the brain was, I had 2 children that had learning differences. And I really, honestly, I'm just going to straight up say I do not like the word disability, because I don't think it's an empowering word. So I'm going to use the word differences. And my children are 10 years apart. So my daughter was having learning differences. And being in the health field, I was kind of banging my head against the wall. Now, keep in mind, my daughter's 30. And so this was happening to her in grade 3. So, the accessibility of health information was not like it is now. I mean, sometimes I think it's almost, overwhelming. If you go to Google, you've got every disease in town. But anyways, I was watching a TV show, and those people say, don't have a TV in your bedroom. Well, good for you. But I actually had had the TV on in the background in the bedroom, and I saw a brain doctor come on, and he started talking, and I literally screamed to my daughter, get in here right now. She turned and started watching the TV, and she goes, Mom, that's me. I said, absolutely, that's you. And so I started digging into his work. which was Dr. Amen. And
Mm.
he, at that time, was letting us know that there had been research, but they had yet as well to not find solutions. He was just talking, and I really aligned with his message around his approach, both allopathic and what we would consider holistic, or a different approach to the conditions that the brain was having, and specifically for her around that time. But, I've always been a big lover of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is, as you know, this big, massive, cleansing, and I think is at the core of many issues in relationship to toxicity in the body. And I had at that point done a lot of stage speaking on the age reversal of organs. So how do you keep your organs young? It's like, and I'm sure you get it as well. People say to me many times, you don't look your age, you don't look your age, you don't look your age. It's because I have kept the age of my cells different than the age of my birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, right? I mean, it really can vary. And I knew that that could happen to the brain as well, being this organ that none of us really talk about. I'm kind of like the person that likes to put things on the table that people don't necessarily talk about out loud. They talk about them to themselves on the inside. Things like, I can't find my glasses over and over and over again, or I'm standing in the kitchen and I don't know why, or those conversations that you don't sit down and have with your girlfriends at lunch. You don't necessarily, maybe more so now, but you don't sit there and go, oh my gosh, I walked in my kitchen 3 times this week and I didn't know why. You just don't do it. You just keep that information kind of backlogged, and you're like, well, this is kind of happening a lot, or you're drawn to certain articles. So being in the health field as much as I did, and as many treatments as I did, and holistic healing, it was just really a natural progression with a drive to find resolution for an experience that my daughter was having. And back then they labeled every kid that had a learning challenge with either AD, ADHD, or HD. And so I knew that not to be the case for her. And 10 years later, we found out she had a speed processing disorder. But nevertheless, I kind of am a root cause seeker, and that's a long answer to a short question.
The ability to rest is the body's key to healing. Do you struggle with getting asleep at nighttime, or staying asleep during the night and waking up the next morning feeling absolutely exhausted? My book, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep, is easy to understand, it's solution-based, and it's packed with research to help you take back control of your night's sleep. My book is available on Amazon, and it's also available on howtogetagagoodnightsleep.com. This book is also available in audio and ebook. So get your copy today and start having the best night's sleep that you've only ever dreamed of. That's brilliant. And yeah, I follow Dr. Amen as well. And in relation to these learning neurodiversities, some people refer to them as, and it's so funny because I started off my holistic career more or less, with massage and reflexology. And I was pregnant actually doing my reflexology exam. I'll never forget that. That was so funny. And then I got into the aromatherapy like you did as well. We'll touch on that. You're so right. The lymphatic system is something that we don't, the lymphatic system doesn't have it like a pump like our heart does. And this is why movement and exercise is so important for part of our lymphatic system. And when you talk about the brain health, the brain has its own lymphatic system called the glymphatic, as you know, and movement is really, really important. And this is one of the contributing factors when it comes to the brain aging. And we'll get into that. But and then you talked about the biological, chronological age as well. So keeping ourselves young, keeping our cells young. And that's something a lot of people, when people talk about aging, they think of being frail and weak. And it's not necessarily, yes, we do age, but there's just so much that we can do to keep our cells young. So there's a lot there that you've spoken about, and so let's get into the brain health, and what is it that you've discovered in terms of keeping the brain age young? What have you discovered around that area?
So I like to keep my information as if I'm talking to someone who knows nothing. So many people go, oh, I know this or not, right? Because it's information I can make it really scientific, but I'm just going to give some really simple layman pieces of information because it's easy to pass on. And here's what I believe. I believe that, information is really its power. And sometimes there's one piece of information, as a woman in business, someone has said one thing and it's changed everything, and it's easy to repeat. And what I find is when I get really scientific, or I get really, start talking about the anatomy, sometimes I lose the audience. They can't repeat it to their husband or their uncle or their school teacher or their what have you. So I'm going to keep it pretty basic in relationship to, because I don't know your full scope of your audience, if they're all,
yeah,
they all have,
basic
yeah,
and simple is
basic.
great.
So yeah, I mean, I believe that we all know that every organ in our body has a huge value. Obviously, our brain is one, because we are now starting to talk about signs of Alzheimer's, signs of dementia. We're talking about things like what phones and technology are doing, to nullify brain waves and all of those kind of things. So I think the first step in brain health and brain recovery is recognizing that we have one, because we don't see it, because it's not an arm or a hand, or we haven't sprained it, or we can't put a cast on it, that it does exist. And the brain is actually very, very soft. And a lot of times people see this bubbly, they see this bubbly brain, and they don't realize that it is like butter and it is like tofu, right? And so when we damage the brain, we can literally damage the brain by falling off our bike when we were 8 years old. We can damage our brain when we stub our toe and fall, and kind of even hit our head on a soft thing like a couch. And so protection of the brain is really, really important, which is why in certain sports, I always say people, love me till they hate me till they like me. Because if people are in sports that are helmet based, I mean, there was many years where helmets were just not given the warrant that they are. So from a sports perspective, just protecting the brain as much as we can, because the inside of the skull is not as smooth as the outside of the skull. And that's another, thing that people don't realize. They're like, oh, you have this huge protective covering, which is super soft or super protective and super hard, right? But, we always hear, oh, he's a hard head, right? So hard. But when someone falls on the inside of the brain, it is jagged, right? It's not smooth with this beautiful little brain that's all protected. And so you can do really quite a lot of damage with something very simple as a fall in the home, or a child falling off the bike. You can notice their personality changes, or they're sleeping more, and that, which is why we know that concussions are just they have such a long life that we don't realize, particularly when there's multiple concussions. And so I just like to kind of lay that out, so that protecting your brain is really important. You can protect your brain in many different ways. So in terms of sport, I mean, one of the best brain sports that you can do is actually ping pong. It is the number one sport that you can do to keep your brain very healthy, very active. We can imagine all the neurons that are firing off it. You're like, it's very speed based. So I will go play squash by myself. Right. So, and I always win. So much fun.
Yeah, so, brilliant. No competition.
I put music, there, and it's good cardio, right? So, I'll go play squash by myself. So racket sports. Now we know that the overall best sport for the whole of the body is swimming. And it's not, it's like, woo, what a flash of insight to realize that things like, hockey and football and soccer can be, anything that lends to high risk of a concussion. Now, when you think about the front of the head with the prefrontal cortex, which is where, for most people, just so you know, that's where your good decisions come from, right? And for women, it fully develops at 25, and for men at 27. And so it's interesting when you think about it, how this is your best making decision organ in your body, yet we're driving at 16, 17, we're voting, we're drinking, before that is developed.
Yeah.
And in certain countries, wherever you are, we now also have pot, marijuana, THC legal, and that also can affect, obviously, the parts of the brain. It actually affects every single part of the brain. But so these things, just to note to self. Please do not bounce a soccer ball off the front of your brain, because people are like, well, why is soccer so, well, we also know there's lots of concussions in soccer, and people don't even recognize it like that. People don't realize, unless you're in soccer, how many concussions you can get in soccer. They see it more as football or hockey, because, you're getting thrown up against the boards, and, well, football, it's just all one big brawl, right? It's like, could be called foot brawl. But even, yeah, the singer, oh my gosh, it just popped out of my brain. There you go. Just popped out of my brain. One of the most amazing singers. He sings opera, and I was just talking about him the other day. He's just an amazing singer. Anyways, he was actually a very, very, very successful soccer player, and they thought that would be his career. And anyways, he was bouncing the ball off the front of his brain and he went blind. He's the blind, amazing singer who sung, it'll come to me. Isn't that funny? That's what's
I know who
called.
you're talking about.
She talks about brain health, and here it is. I should let people know I am a music avid, and I listen and talk music and music and bands all the time. So it'll come to me. But the point is about the prefrontal cortex. It's just trying to protect it as much as you can. So if it is an option of, helmet or no helmet, just because you're playing with your buddies and doing that kind of thing, please, and on all the things that you need for skateboarding, for example, you know what I mean? So just really using the protection.
Yeah, it's so great because our kids are not afraid. When they're young, they're not afraid. They're hopping on their bikes and they're flying. I see them here out on our road in our estate. They're flying around on those scooters, and they have these electronic scooters now and what have you. And my daughter is 12, and when she wants to go on her bike, I tell her to put the helmet on because I see them. They're flying along really fast, and all they need is just one crash off the bike. And it happened to my brother, actually. He had two instances where he fell off the bike over the handlebars, hit his head, had brain damage done. Thankfully he's okay now, but it's not 100%, right? And yeah, it's like we do need to protect our brain, like our heart. We need to protect our heart as well, just as much,
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing that you said as well, like the brain is not fully developed till we're 25 years of age for women and 27 for men. And the skull is still becoming stronger and stronger. And for children, again, the outside of the skull is even softer. So even more reason to protect the brain. And these are very simple practices that you're talking about. I loved that you mentioned ping pong. I'm going to take a note of that. I play tennis. I play tennis quite a lot, and I play with my daughter. She's 12. I play quite a lot of tennis. But ping pong, yeah, it's very fast. But what I hear in that as well, and relating back to neurodivergence, is the hand-eye coordination and all the neural pathways that are firing. And this is very good for exercising all the neurons in the brain. All those the brain lighting up, and basically helping us to use our whole brain, like just keeping it simple. So this is a really good exercise for everybody, right? But you have this ADHD or not, it's really, really good. Would you agree with that, Debs? Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, these are the things that I think that we make difference. Yes, people can come and book in, and there will be a percentage of people that will always come and book in with you for, the gifts that you offer in health, and myself as well. And then there's the people that won't. And I think when we have an opportunity to share is to give as much information around minimal lifestyle changes, because, I'm going to take it out of people's vocabulary today. Today, you literally stop saying the word tired and busy. You don't say that. So, oh, I can't because I'm so busy. You're going to replace it with the word abundant. I had an insurance agent that's been trying to reach me to get insurance for my son. And he's like, oh, you're so busy. And I texted back, I live a very abundant life.
Love it.
I live a very abundant life. Those kind of things really important. And so we know that there's people out there that are abundant right now in what they're doing, and they're going to take bits and pieces away. So I think it's important, even when you're asking me things that people can do for their brain. First of all, like I talked earlier, when there is changes happening, give it attention, because the truth is, like it or not like it, Alzheimer's and dementia are in the brain doing its job probably about 25 years before you ever get first diagnosed.
Yeah.
And so if you are starting to see the signs of memory decline, then do something about it. You wouldn't let a toothache go for 20 years. You wouldn't let, your hand not working or functioning fully for 20 years. You wouldn't limp for 20 years if you had a slight, something's going on with your body. But for brain, it seems to be this place of private, quiet. I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want I don't want the news or whatever that looks like. But you can absolutely reverse, like anything else. You can reverse, and there's lots of things that I suggest on it. But that's in terms of sport. In terms of, we've already talked about it. We talked about alcohol and we talked about drugs, whether they're legal, recreational drugs or what have you. I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. I'm just telling you, there is not one area of the brain, not one, that doesn't get denullified when you have THC in your brain in relationship. So just so you know, you are affecting all areas of your brain. With alcohol, we know that affects the brain, but not all of the brain. Because people say, well, drugs and alcohol are the same. They're not the same. They're not the same. They're, it's like, that's like saying two pieces of fruit are the same, or it's like saying that chicken and lamb are the same. They're not the same. They're just not the same. They don't have the same composition. They don't have the same effects on the body. They're not the same. And so they might make you feel the same, but they're not the same. They might chill you out or relax you, and that's fine. I'm not here to say what to do. I'm just telling you facts. And so with alcohol, for example, we know we don't necessarily feel great the next day, but just so you know, when one glass of wine can literally decrease your brain function by 30%. Same as if you're overweight. If you are over 30 pounds of weight, based on what your body is required for your body, again, your brain starts to drop, or your brain function starts to drop around 30%. So just know that, if you're going to have a glass of wine, you're going to do whatever you're going to, that's fine. Just know and counter that. It's kind of like, I can't tell you not to get stressed. But so now there's things that you can do to counter the stress. So what's good for the brain? We are going to get stressed. It actually isn't good for the brain if we don't challenge it. If our nervous system doesn't get jangled once in a while, it's not good for the brain. You see people, they kind of get really denullified themselves. They're like, yeah, it's groovy. Look, I live in the world of meditation and chanting, and I know lots of gurus and that kind of thing, and they're all very even keeled. But even keeled people, there needs to be some kind of charge, right? That's what it is. So meditation.
I love that.
Yeah.
Informed choices, that's what you're basically giving them informed, so that they're aware of what they're doing and to be responsible for what these substances are doing for the body. And a little bit is okay, but as long as we're responsible. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, right? And it's making choices. Like I was, my son had his buddy here. He's 19, and he had his buddy here from Australia, and his other buddy here. So they're all 19. And in where I'm in Vancouver, Canada, you have to be 19 to drink. So I'm taking them out for dinner, and my son didn't have his ID with him, and he's like, "Oh, they're not going to. They're going to ask me ID." I'm like, "They're not going to ask you ID because I'm here, right?" And so his two other friends ordered beer, and he ordered a soda, and I'm like, if you want to have a drink, it's okay to have a drink, right? And he's like, "No, I'm okay with this." And I noticed that one of his friends in particular, it's like, "Well, hey, dude, I know it's okay. You can order that," and blah, blah. And I noticed my son, he's like, "No, it's okay. My ID's in the car." And I thought, oh, you're using that to not have a drink. And that's cool. But he had made a decision clearly. He wasn't going to have a drink. He's training right now. And I noticed that even in that moment, it's those moments that this piece of information about you're going to function 30% lower the next day, make those decisions based on that, right? Did it matter if he had a beer at dinner? No. Did it matter? Is he having to cheers at a wedding? No. Does it really matter? And is it something that you really want to do? And it's just a little question that you can ask yourself. It's kind of like same things with foods that aren't healthy for you. You're having something that's not healthy. I mean, we're not ignorant to that information, but it's just asking yourself that question, should I? And if I should, how much? And if you're going to have something that's not good for you, then make the decision and enjoy it, right? Don't eat it and guilt, but just know that you need to, right? That's not good for your digestion either. So, and that's what I mean about food. And food and being overweight really affects the function of the brain, kind of like how you talk about sleep, right? It really affects that. So eating, we all know how to eat healthy. We know foods that are, brain fog based foods, deep fried foods, breaded food. We know if there's there's this huge gluten wave. Well, I stopped, it's been 31 years since I've had gluten because I've been in the health field for a long time. And before it became a craze or, a wave, or let me tell you, it was not fun trying to find gluten-free food 30 years ago. Yeah. But sugar, I haven't had sugar, wheat, or dairy. And I'm not saying that dairy is for against dairy for food. For me, it's not a good brain food. I mean, there's things that are just not good for me that can be good for you or whatever. But sugar and gluten, I think, are two major. I think we all are pretty versed in knowing gluten is an inflammation. Anything that causes inflammation in the body is not conducive, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And the gluten is like glue. And, you know, we can go into, well, we're not going to go into all this, but there is a whole conversation around the wheat and the hybridized wheat and the all that kind of stuff as well. So that's definitely there. So we need to be aware of that as well. And for most people, you know, there's a lot of gut dysfunction as a result of the wheat, definitely. And some people, the dairy as well. And you're right, like the foods, we need to be aware of the foods that cause inflammation. And you pointed out something there as well, like you're okay with the dairy, like everybody is different, we're all bio individuals, so it's important for us to notice, to check in with ourselves how we feel after having whatever meal, whatever food that we had or whatever, to notice how we're actually feeling and not depend on devices telling us these things. There was a lot of people are referring to devices and they're not checking in with themselves how to feel, because we all are different. And that's a really important thing to be aware of as well, that we're all very, very different. You mentioned so we mentioned sports, we're talking about dancing, obesity, drugs, alcohol. I love that you mentioned obesity as well, because it's an area where it's becoming a very big topic, because there's so many people now who are overweight or obese, and it's leading to diabetes and all that kind of thing. And it's known to shrink the brain as well. And obviously our gut is very much linked to our brain connection as well. So that's a very big topic. We're coming near the end, Debs, because I'm just conscious of the time there as well. Yeah. Can you, is there any other areas that you want to touch on? Because we're flying through this conversation and there's just so much more we could talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And so without sounding like I've come on the show to sell a supplement, I'm going to talk about a supplement that I think has been game changing. And it's called Eicosanol 5-hydroxytryptamide 5. Okay. Yes. You can contact me for more information, because what I want to talk about is actually I'm a cause, right? There's cause, and then there's support to the cause. And so if you can get to the root cause of things, as you know, even with anything, even emotions, you can have a greater result. So there's many things on the market. That people will take for brain, like Q10, fish oils. High levels of vitamin B, all sorts of things. Never in any of my studies have I ever seen anything like this product. I personally took this product because I'm a coma recovering person. I've had concussion from a car accident, but many, many things. And I have suggested to many people. So I want people to have the best results that they can, because if people are spending a lot of money taking many different things, and sometimes many, many things. So I love the studies of this. This was Dr. Jeffrey Maxwell Stock from Signum Biosciences, Princeton University. And they were looking to find something natural, because, pharmaceutical can be just too costly for people. So it was a father and son team looking for something that they could bring to the natural market. And as you talked about earlier, I formulated 300 products and took it to the natural market. And so in your brain, there is something called a microtubular. And if you just think and imagine of a tube, okay? So that tube is like the charging cord to your neurons. And we know that the neurons, so off the end of the tube are these gorgeous neurons, and neurons need to transmit to other neurons that are also attached to a tube. So charging cord to your phone, right? That's what we're talking about here. And so we know that they don't touch, but they transmit. And most people know that is synaptic connection. And so what happens to those beautiful microtubulars, you think about, a lot of times people think, oh, I'm not gonna worry about my brain now, and I worry about it when I'm 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, when people actually start to show signs of this aging progression of the brain. But let me tell you, it starts to age at 21. So while you're damaging your brain and not sleeping and partying and, whatever it is you're doing and staying up and playing games and, all that kind of stuff, you're damaging your brain. Well, guess what? It's damaging with or without you. And so that microtubular starts to unravel. And as it starts to unravel, what happens is the charging to your phone is starting to lose its potency, right? That's why we have to keep recharging. Well, there's no difference with your brain. And so your brain is aging, which is sending less surge to these, to these neurons that need to connect, right? And so that's the progression of the aging of the brain. And that is why organically over time, we lose, neuronal potency. Now, people take things to try to get their brain to function. And I'm not saying don't do things or take things for your brain. I'm just saying if you could find something that would go to the tube and stop it from unraveling, now we don't have to worry about trying to solve a problem without going to the source. And that's what eicosanol 5-hydroxytryptamide 5 does. So when you take this, what we call EHT, when you take the EHT, it activates an enzyme in the brain called PP2A. PP2A sends tau protein to the microtubule and wraps it in tau, which stops it from unraveling. And even if it's unraveled, it will repair and start charging those neurons again. Even a neuron that is dead will start to recharge, because you could have really great neurons here, but if these ones aren't charging, it's not working. And so that's a very exciting discovery that I was in the room when they made the announcement to the public. There was probably 20,000 of us there, and 10,000 of us were crying. Now, is it part of a company that I support in terms of their products? Absolutely. 100% full transparency. I distribute that product. But why do I distribute that product? Because I have 30 years in the health field, and you would too, if you found something like you do. So sometimes people think, oh, well, you sell it. Well, you buy apples at the store. So I'm not saying something to you that, and I believe to date, it is the only thing that I have found that has been able to solve that issue. And I can't begin to tell you even the difference in my brain, which I was I'm pretty good, right? I was like, ooh, I'm going to take this because I know it's a good preventative. Just like many of us take things that are a good preventative. We know it's good for us, so we take it. And I thought, I'm not going to see a result. And with 3 weeks, I woke up and I felt like my brain had gone to the gym. And the amount of stress, people go, how do you do what you do? And I'm like, well, let me tell you, I do da, 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 da. And I literally will never not take that product. So anyways, yeah, because it stops people from having to take 4 products. And one of the reasons that we know people don't take care of themselves is fiscal. One, they either don't. I say this is the one piece of real estate you have. I know people that spend more money on gardening and pillows for their couch than they do their health. Look at, who cares if you have the same TV or couch the rest of your life, but you are vibrant and you are strong and you are happy and you are not depressed. So your body is the most important piece of real estate. But even if you don't come from that philosophy, we need to do everything that we can to make things viable and accessible. And accessible economics comes into play. So it's important that there's people out there taking 3 and 4 things, and I have a conversation with them and we can get them down to 2 instead of 4 or what have you. So I'm very adamant about the brain. Clearly, I just got a little elevated. I felt it in my body.
I love it, Debs, because like, first of all, I love that you use the analogy of charge and the brain like the phone, because the brain is electrical. We need those electrical currents. Absolutely, really, really important. And how you explained it as well, and in just a couple of minutes. But you're right, the brain is like a real estate, and you really got to look after that, because this is where all your memories and all your life experiences are held, all these memories. And we want to remember, like, if we don't remember who we are, like, we're just existing then, we're just existing. So our brain health is super important on so many levels. Tell us, Tabs, where can people find you? Give us your website link.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to debdrummond.com, right? DEBDRUMMOND.com. You can find me at debdrummond.com. And honestly, I'm going to put my phone number here because some people are just really into phone, and that's okay. That's my generation as well. You can find me by phone, by text, or by WhatsApp, because my business is very international. At area code 1, I'm in Canada. So 1-604-655-4698. I am absolutely available to talk to people about their brain and their health. And so I know people go, oh, you're really abundant. And I say, I am. But when the calling's there, I'll take it. So if you need to call, call.
I love it. I love Debs. Look, thank you so much for talking with me today. And folks, like, Debs really is, I often wonder how in the name of God does she do what she does, because she's involved in so many projects. She's doing summits every single month. We're going to probably, we won't have time to talk about that now, but we're going to put the notes in put the links in the show notes. But Debs has empowering summits every single month, and she's doing a big book launch as well in March, just before Mother's Day as well. So maybe we'll have Debs back on the show to talk to us more about that project, because my God, it's a very, very empowering project. And I don't know how well, I do now. I know how she does it.
Yes, I take I'm a double doser. I take 2 EHT every single day. Absolutely.
Oh my
absolutely.
I am dying to follow up on that and find out more information about that. So listen, Debs, on that note, thank you so much for being here today. I know you have to go on another call.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing in the world. You're really making it a better place. So thank you, and have a wonderful day.
You too, my dear. We got to talk. We got to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. We will. Okay, I'll catch up soon. Take care, Debs.
Bye.
I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue pushing these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights. There is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off, or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Take care.